Hey YouTube, I'd like to say a few words about how this community helped me with the confusion and doubt leaving occult causes. It's a key time in life when confidence is fragile, you can't be certain you've made the right decision, and there may be loneliness and untold incentives to return. All this makes it fair to say we can be vulnerable to those Jehovah's Witness implanted worms that eat away at our peace of mind, calling us back or driving us forward towards self-destruction, just the way the cult told us and wants it. Sadly, we're also vulnerable to everything outside the cult whilst we adjust to a new way of living, where the rules and options are not as clear and easy to navigate as the imposed certainties of cult life. I say this because I accidentally found the YouTube community years back, and there were so many voices and faces of the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. Some were recovering from physical, financial and sexual abuse inside the cult, some recovering from substances and homelessness and deep emotional challenges. Some had been committed believers and others had known it was nonsense from the start and carefully planned their exits. There were young and older, unbaptized to ex-circuit servants, some passionately angry and others detached, the faithful and faithless, some using pained humour to hold back tears. But they all had something in common. They all took the time to record a few words to ensure I never ever felt alone and isolated, the way the cult planned it for me. There was always someone who helped me feel attached and virtually hugged. I remember being touched by an ex-elder detailing how this cult had destroyed his family and how he had personally destroyed others through Jehovah's loving arrangement of disfellowshipping. He was an imposing, rugged, mature man, deep-voiced and nearly tearful, who just wanted to record for posterity his sorrow and regret for being both victim of and strong arm muscle for liars. YouTube was his confessional, his public acknowledgement he could never fix the mistakes he had made in shunning his sister, who later died at her own hand. This terrible event awoke him, but this realization brought his own banishment upon him. He must not be silenced. But not all voices were so deep. Some would make you laugh with those acute observations that highlight just how ridiculous life in that bubble is. Others lamented life choices they had felt forced to make or forsake. It was this patchwork of voices that weaved together to reassure and confirm that freed me to explore the horizons of my personal capacities. This patchwork consisted of good-hearted people sharing a part of their life with me, and I knew I wasn't alone. There were people like me and people unlike me, and I could take a lesson from here and a point from there to build my own personal freedom and kill those worms the cult tried to sabotage me with. I respected even the voices I wasn't attracted to, because we'd both suffered under the same burden, and we had the freedom and maturity to agree to disagree without insult or hounding from mindless trolls. We had the camaraderie of being co-survivors, comparing scars from a common source. None of these voices should be allowed to fade, not even the ones I choose not to listen to, and certainly not because somebody wills it. It was when I had taken from our community and used you for my therapy and peace of mind, I anonymously and very nervously added my voice to all those that had helped me. There was something wonderful about whispering my truth and knowing it had been heard and my pain understood by you, and you cared enough to offer comfort, support, advice and resolve. Giving back was, and I was totally surprised to find, an even bigger gift to me. And I would encourage anyone tempted but nervous to speak so we can share your pain and share your victories. If you need, be anonymous, be careful, but be heard so others can draw strength. There's something only you can say, There's something only you can share that can help someone listening kill those worms that eat us all from the inside. I remember the first time I was privately asked for my advice, and I felt flattered and humbled. It was a big responsibility and a compliment to help. It was something I'd said that drew them to me, and that's a pleasure that awaits you if you let yourself be heard. I guess you've heard my subtext. Our community is at its best when many different voices come together to express all the emotions we go through as survivors. We need the right voice for when we can't hold back tears, and the right voice for our anger, and the voice that supports that smile. We need to hear how someone else dealt with a problem, and no one voice can hope to provide all the individual needs of our multinational and multicultural community. It's the diversity of a community that gives it strength, vigour and self-sustaining life. Those seeking to restrict us, insult us, misrepresent, suppress and shackle us for money and ego are in no way different from the cult's governing body. In fact, they're worse, because the governing body does not pretend to be our friend. Would a friend demand we let them do all our thinking because we're mentally ill? Where would mindless following lead? If we're not careful, our community will be gone, converted into a restrictive commune where we're sitting in lines with our hands in the air, obediently waiting to be called, and only one person benefits from that. To borrow and butcher a comment from my last video, our community is not about making us feel we're inside another Kingdom Hall. It's about us, sometimes agreeing, sometimes not, but always respecting our common struggle. We cannot allow another governing body over us to re-abuse and re-victimize as we search to find our own minds. We don't need demeaning, insulting lectures from those seeking advantage over us and the raw, vulnerable lever. We need only us, and every one of us, to claim our place. If we claim our place within our community, we can support each other rather than pay expensive, in quotes, experts that have never spent one day in our shoes and listen to us only because the meter's running. Paying someone whose interest is not in us, but in prolonging our pain and prolonging the source of our pain so the meter keeps ticking and the checks keep coming, all the while using facile, hypocritical arguments in an attempt to appear reasonable, whilst extracting that last cent we used to send to Brooklyn. The astute will by now have seen the subtext. If you delegate your thinking to a person that insults and bullies people, do not be surprised when you yourself become bullied, insulted and abused. Or if you feel influenced to bully a person who has suffered just the same way you have, simply because of a differing opinion. To quote a cliche, you can take the man from the cult, but can you take the cult from the man? If you feel that urge to impose yourself on others here, maybe it's time to seek out a voice that has battled with and beaten this Jehovah's Witness worm of finding comfort in rigid conformity, and when you have triumphed, please tell us about it. We need your advice and success story to inform the decisions we make for ourselves in our own lives. But I really don't know how else I can say this. Our community needs you, new voices and the return of resting voices. Please contribute.